It was morning. The light had yet to break the night, but Robert forced himself to roll out of bed and start the day. He showered in the bathhouse that was a few doors down and filled a bucket of water as he left. As he was heading back to change and pack his bag, he stopped at his brother's door. "I guess I should wake him," Robert thought to himself. He opened the door. He could hear Iscariot still sleeping. He crept inside his room to the edge of his brother's bed and tossed the bucket of water onto it.
"What the hell?"
Iscariot leapt from his slumber, but Robert had already left the room, laughing hysterically.
"Payback is coming, Robert!"
Iscariot yelled, still in shock. As the moment was ending, he looked at himself and gave a chuckle.
"That bastard,"
he said with a smirk on his face. Robert could still hear him as he listened through the door. The two were finally dressed and ready for the climb they had ahead of them. Robert wore clothes of simplicity and practicality. His shoes were flexible so as to grip the stone of the cliff they were set to climb. Iscariot, however, was in gear that was technologically advanced and sport-driven. His gloves had an odd protrusion that seemed counter to climbing, as did his boots. Nonetheless, he seemed eager for the challenge ahead. Unforeseen was waiting outside as the sun peeked over the horizon, giving a soft glow to the earth.
"Good morning, lads. I hope you both slept well."
"Very much so, Apsel, and you?" Robert asked.
"I could have done without the wake-up call,"
Iscariot scolded as he smacked his brother on the back.
"Oh, I never get more than a few hours these days,"
Sinan replied.
"When you get to my age, sleep seems like such a waste when there is so much left to do and see."
Unforeseen looked at the two men in front of him.
"Do you both have what you need for the sacrifice?"
he questioned the brothers. They nodded.
"Good. Now get out of here. One day of you two was plenty for me. I'll see you both in 2 days' time."
Robert tightened the straps of his bag. "Thanks again, Apsel. We'll see you soon." He embraced Sinan as he said his goodbye. Iscariot wasted no time and dashed past Sinan and Robert.
"Thanks, Apsel. See you, Robert,"
he yelled as he ran off towards Leviathan Falls.
"He does know it takes nearly 22 hours to climb the Leviathan, doesn't he?"
Sinan asked with a confused look on his face. Robert grinned. "I didn't mention that to him." Robert walked off, following his brother's footsteps towards Leviathan. He arrived at the base of the rock formation. He could hear the power of the waterfall as it bounced off the rocks and still water below. The winter breeze filled his lungs as he glided his hand over the stone. He found his line to travel up the Behemoth rock. He steadied his foot at the base of the stone and hurled himself up. Iscariot was already 200 feet above him, rushing towards his goal. Robert took the climb slowly, calculating each step, every hand placement, keeping his line towards the peak. 10 hours had passed since the brothers began their climb. They stopped to rest their muscles and hydrate their overworked bodies. The sun beamed brightly on them.
"I think I have you beat, Robert,"
Iscariot yelled down to his brother.
"I'm not too worried. We still have half the day to climb," he yelled back. "You seem to have forgotten to mention that it takes a lifetime to climb this thing." "Oh, did I? Sorry about that,"
Robert said with humor. The two continued their climb. The hours had sped by as they rose higher and higher. Twilight now filled the sky, and the stars began to radiate once more. The path to the summit was one of risk and fright. Foot and hand placement became more difficult as loose stone became more present. Wet rocks soon turned to icy glaciers, for there was no sun to keep their formations at bay. Robert's muscles began to ache, and he knew his brothers must burn and cry with pain just as much as his. It was late in the hours of the night, when not only the muscles were tired and the mind as well, and in this fatigued state, the unthinkable happened. Crack. Robert looked up and could see shadows tumbling towards him, and he saw his brother's body fall with them. Robert reached out his hand in vain.
"Iscariot!"
His voice screeched in fear. Boom! The sound echoed loudly off the rocks. Robert imagined his brother's death as he could not see below himself. He was paralyzed by such an awful thought, and his mind and body became frozen, for he could not process what he had just seen. The wind swirled around Iscariot. It was not his body that slammed against the jagged stones below that made the wicked percussion, but the whistle of the odd gloves he wore upon his hands. Anti-gravity gloves pierced the airwaves and echoed in Robert's ears. Iscariot began laughing hysterically.
That was pretty close, wouldn't you say? Are you all right?
Robert yelled with fear still in his eyes.
You scared me half to death, Isk.
He continued with anger and relief in his voice.
Calm down, Robert. It looks like you won.
Iscariot spoke, levitating in the air as if nothing had happened.
I'll see you up there shortly.
I'm gonna kill him, Robert thought to himself, his heart beating in his throat rather than his chest. He took several deep, long, and purposeful breaths. It slowed his heart rate and calmed his nerves. Only then, when he saw his brother start to climb again, did he continue his rise to the peak of Leviathan. It was past midnight. The only light was from the moon and the temperate rays that came off Iscariot's gloves. Robert sat at the edge of the top of the mountain and shook his head as he pulled up his brother to the top of Leviathan Falls. You're something else, you know that? One day your luck is going to run out.
Well, I might as well keep using it while I have it,
Iscariot replied.
I'm glad you're okay, but try to be a little more careful. You have a son on the way, remember?
Robert reminded him. The two looked down from whence they came. Leviathan's flaming fall could only be heard as its water fell towards the earth. The brothers turned from the falls and saw two horses waiting for them at a small stable. Robert looked to see if anyone was near the horses, but saw there was no one. It was then that he noticed the horses were his own, and kissed each of them upon their noses.
Oh, I'm glad Sinan was nice enough to send up your horses,
Iscariot said tiredly. As am I. Come, let's finish this ceremony.